And on the upper right, in the blue for Starlight Twinkle, it's Cham.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, I guess we'll wait a moment for them to resolve. I think we'll probably need to switch scenes just for the moment, I assume.
Yeah. I guess we're going to wait on that.
Yeah. We won't talk about the game, but of course, like you said, there's been some funky conditioning. Okay, looks like it's all ready to go and we're back into it. So sometimes those pauses take 5 seconds, sometimes they take a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And just for competitive integrity, obviously, we want to make sure everything was all Gucci.
All right. Hey, the good news is we get to hear more of the intro track.
That's true. As we have spawning down in the bottom left for the Cranky Ducklings, it is Erik. And as you mentioned, he went for that Extractor Trick 15 hatch. It's going to be the Extractor Trick 15 pool behind it. And the thing about doing this setup is that you still get a good number of workers rather quickly. It's easy peasy. It's obviously you are going to be a little bit behind in the worker count overall, but it's something that players are experimenting with. Scarlet herself has tried this out in ZVP a little bit, and even Cyril utilized it versus Max Packs. It's a very neat way to play, and it provides you with just a very less understood opener. So the potential that you might be able to catch your opponent off guard with something is then increased.
Yeah, but Steadfast, on the other side of that, those are ZVP matchups, right? That is because you know you're going to get hatch blocked and you want to make sure you get your natural down. That is a very different argument from what we're seeing Erik go for. I mean, I guess there's the same idea, right? Where it's a little bit weird. But again, I think you're doing that for very, very different reasons. So now the question, though, is Cham does scout that, yes, the creep spread is a little bit faster for Erik than Cham is right now. How far does he read into this? Does he think that, yeah, okay, he's reading into this super hard. That is such a fast bailing nest.
Yeah. Yeah, this is... this makes me wonder if Cham maybe didn't do his homework, to be honest, because... I mean, it can be the Speedling flood, but it doesn't have to be. The Bailing Nest first is, well, it's not going to be good against specifically what we're seeing from Erik, and that is going to not be a commitment to this any kind of Speedling all-in or anything like that. This is instead going to be just a very quick layer and a quick Roach Warren at the front. The thing about this play is that it's also really good as a 2-base opener, and I'm not a huge fan. Okay, Cham does cancel the Bailing Nest, starts up Ling Speed as he sees the Roach Warren. No, wait, what am I saying? He didn't cancel the Bailing Nest.
No, so he's just
my goodness.
He's gonna try to take his third base here, but Steadfast, kind of going off what you said, getting a Bailing Nest before speed against the 15, 14, 12, or the 15, 14, 13, 14, 13, 12, something like that, right? The hatch first Speedling all in is marvelous. Like, if you can get the scout off and you can go for that, you are in such a good spot. It is highly unlikely that you lose the game. It is Speedlings against Ling Bane, especially with Queens kind of adding a little damage on the top, is just, it's not fair for the Speedling player. It's really hard to pull off. So on the one hand, right, there's this argument to be made that maybe Cham hasn't done his homework. The other hand is that maybe he did his homework a little bit too much. You know, seeing all the timings as it did, he knows that Erik, he killed Dark with this recently. We were talking about the build that this looked like going into the series, right? So if Cham was so prepared for that, he's like, oh, well, you know, if anything looks like a nail, if you got a hammer, if anything looks like a 12 pool, or not a 12 pool, but this all-in that Erik's been going for, if you're expecting it.
Yeah, it can definitely... It does feel like that is what has happened here, is either one, he's overreacted, or two, underreacted. Regardless, I like Erik's position just quite nicely. If we take a look at the income advantage with the resources graph, it's not a huge advantage, but it is a little bump. It is a little blip. Now, I do like very much that Cham has canceled Ling Speed beyond this, but Erik's going to have a big opportunity to try and get something done with his Roach Speedies moving forward across the map. Gonna snipe down a couple of creep tumors. This is such a small number of roaches, but like he is just gonna try and utilize the roach speed to find pickoffs. This is such an interesting way of approaching it, and if he can get this roach and get out, oh, but he's not gonna get out, not easily.
No, he's gonna have to run right on by, and that's just not gonna work out. The body blocks are gonna be too strong from Cham. So Erik, really cool opener, really interesting ideas, but it just well, more roaches find their way in. So Eric's gonna be able to jump on the roaches on the right side here. And now into the natural he's gonna go. So these roaches are dead. They will not get out once again, but if they can get like 4 or 5 drones on top of everything else they've gotten, that seems somewhat worthwhile. So he's gonna get the 4. Doesn't seem like he's gonna target anything more down than that. But at this point, Erik, pull your roaches home. I mean, you don't want you don't want them to go in one by one. That will never be cost effective.
Yeah, even with this setup, I actually think this was a net loss for Erik. He does kill those 4 drones, which is great, but he loses 5 extra roaches and the overseer for it. And now this timing is pretty much closed to him. +1 going to finish at the same time for both players. Erik, though, is going into burrow and tunneling claws, and that will be his next opportunity to find a lot of damage here. And that could actually really open things up for him. I will say Cham is an excellent roach player, though, just in general.
God, Erik's so weird. Like, I love this. This is not how... Yes, okay, the idea of getting burrowed roaches, fine. That was much more common back before Serral got them nerfed. The concept of, hitting with the speed roach timing, sure, fine. But everything all together with how Cham is playing right now, it's not how you play ZVZ. It's how Erik does it, but it's not really how anyone else does. So a couple roaches on the left side looking for some harass, adds a bunch of roaches in the middle, find their way down the gullet. But at this point, with the queens and the roaches, it's not going to find that much value. And look at how important those couple creep tumors were. I mean, we see Cham, he's spreading creep outside of the natural because those transfuses, if Erik decides to move in, are going to be so important. And because, I mean, Cham is only on 3 queens. He wants to make sure he has injects. He doesn't really have a lot of energy to spend on respreading those, the tumors. So he's got to spread creep with the Overlord. And now, round 2, roach burrow in everywhere.
Yeah, this is already looking very painful right here. We got Erik running by into the natural and the main, utilizing that little distraction at the third. Will be able to really cause some problems. Already 2 queens getting sniped. That's going to really provide a larva issue for Cham. Cham is set up defensively against this main army, but a lot of drones starting to fall. And now the attack coming in at the 3rd base. Will snipe down another queen and a decent little split off, but there is an overseer this time, and that will be a lot of dead roaches. Erik just trying to get some value from the dead roaches by re-engaging with the bottom army. But this is an opportunity for Cham to potentially just move across the map and try and get a ton of work done. Because right now he's got a decent little army supply lead. He's actually doubling the roach count of his opponent.
Yeah, this is massive. It's one of those things where it's easy to say, wow, Erik is out multitasking the hell out of Cham here. Roaches are getting damaged everywhere. Queens are falling down. You're lacking in production. And by the way, Cham has not rebuilt his queens. They're not on the production tab. He has literally 0 queens on the map. So for a moment, he was up. It's like 15 roaches or something. He was up significantly. And now that gap is kind of closing because, again, he doesn't have queens. He doesn't have an ability to generate the larva that he needs to make something happen. And look at this. Erik, round 4. Okay, so it was speed roaches timing into burrow roaches into dropper lord burrow roaches. Erik does not want to ever take a straight up fight. He just does not believe in it. He says, I'm just going to play all over everywhere else. But this is nice for Cham.
Yeah, Erik just lost all of his Ravagers there. Cham jumped on them, and now he's going to look to trap this army potentially in the at the 3rd base. Erik will break through. Oh, nice burrow there from Cham. But Erik is going to lose a lot of stuff here, and now I think is definitely the time to go across the map and try and shove in. Erik, though, is continuing to be a nuisance, but Cham, he's going to find all these roaches. Every single one of them will fall. This is Cham's moment to go. But, it looks like he gets baited a little bit by the dropper lords. He actually has more units defending than are in the overlords. But still, this is such a massive opportunity for Cham to find massive damage.
What a fun game we're looking at here. But I don't know that I like Cham attacking up this ramp, even with the value that he's been able to find. I mean, it's still a concave, but Cham apparently knows better than I do. So he's going to force his way up the ramp. Drones have to get pulled here. And everything's returning home, right? And the dropper lord's no longer in the main base. They're just kind of stuck in the middle of things. They're going to try to go back on the other side for Cham, for Erik right now. But Cham is just punching in, Roaches are going to be forced away. The third base of Erik is done and dusted. And Erik's played a really funky game. You know, he has invested a lot into things that do not allow him to win that straight up fight. And it was clear that early on, oh, look at that. Chains are going to block him out, at least for the moment. So that's another, oh, and that's a dead Roach Warren as well. We're going to see +1 armor. He's going to opt to not cancel it. Cham just gifted back gift. But Steadfast at this point, more Roaches beat less Roaches.
They certainly do. Erik tried to get tricky, but Cham, fundamentals, just win the day here. He was able to deal with everything. Erik threw away a little bit too much, and he wasn't able to break his opponent. Excellent job from Cham. And that's what I mean by saying that Cham is a good Roach player. He is a great Roach player. And if you give him Roach Ravager versus Roach Ravager, I don't care who he's up against. He is a dangerous player. He's beaten Rogue in important matches. He's beaten Dark in important matches. He's turned around unwinnable situations versus Scarlet in important matches. He is so confident and so competent in these Roach plays, and it really feels like stylistically that was, maybe it's a bit of almost a counter in terms of Cham versus Erik.
Cham, of course,
just in terms of who's really good at what.
And of course, Cham was the slayer of the Shopify Rebellion in Katowice, knocking down Scarlet in that run. But I mean, let's give some credit to Erik here, Steadfast. Erik was not playing a Roach game. He was playing a game that was just entirely predicated on causing chaos, on having run-bys on the main and the third and everything else. Yes, it was Roaches, but if I was to say, you know what, just looking at map movement, looking at how this plays, that's more of a Ling game. That's almost more of a Ling Muta game, right? Where you're tearing apart, you're trying to find avenues to attack into. But if you don't get the damage you need, if you don't maintain map control, if you do not keep your opponent down, they run across the map and kill you. And yeah, you know, Erik was doing that with Roaches. He was not doing it with Ling Muta, but just the kind of that flow of the game. That was, and it was a two-base layer as well. I mean, it just kind of the flow of the game. That's almost more of what it felt like.
It was definitely a highly chaotic game, but all I mean is that Cham he is an expert at taking these engagements and recognizing, okay, yeah, you got worker damage, but you threw away a lot to do it. I am okay with this. And he's got a firm grasp and really solid showing there from Cham in game number 1. We'll see if Erik can surprise his opponent here in game 2.
You're telling me he needs to firmly grasp game 2? Firmly grasp it. Anyways, game 2. And in the upper left, in the red, give a great big quack. It's Erik.
And his opponent spawning down in the bottom right for Starlight Twinkle. It is the blue Zerg player, Cham.
The reigning champion of the last ever Latin American regional. At least, not last ever, but last for now.
Yes. Now, okay, we got to talk about this build because this is a wild build right here out of Erik. This is a 12 pool, 11 gas. I think this is going to be a Ling, like a slow Ling Bane all in. We are going to see in just a little bit, but this is so dedicated in terms of its aggression. Now, Cham is a player. We talked about Erik's openings. Cham is a player that will go hatch first and likes to go pool before gas, which means you get those Lings out a little bit earlier. You start your Queens up a little bit earlier. It is better against specifically this kind of play. Now, as I say, you know, I was thinking it was going to be no speed. It looks like it will, in fact, be a speed play. And actually, this is just going to be a speed Ling expand, isn't it?
Is it going to be an expand?
I mean, even if it's not, it's still going to be, or even if it is, it's still going to be a ton of pressure.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I think it's more of a speed Ling all in rather than an expand build out of that. Of course, Erik making the smallest of mistakes. He goes to 104 gas instead of 100. Unacceptable here. But he's doing such a good job, right, of getting his Lings onto the bottom left side. Cham has no idea this is coming. He has not seen any of this up until right now. Now, the good news is these Lings hit far before speed, but the other problem here, this can look like a 12 pool. If Cham is not on top of seeing what reinforcements are happening, this can read like a 12 pool, and then you pull drones to defend, and then speed turns on in about 45 seconds from now, something like that, and then all of a sudden, life becomes a little bit more problematic. But for right now, it is drones versus Lings, and before the Lings start to get a little bit too problematic, this is still a doable fight for Cham.
Well, it is. He does need to hold this hatch for sure. He definitely needs to hold this hatch. So it is actually the correct call to go for this pull. There is no Baneling nest. Now, the Ling speed is going to be difficult to deal with. Cham did pull a good number of drones. He needs to get this queen into a good position. Oh, these Lings are trying to jump with the speed. They actually kind of baited his opponent away. Queen will get enough of a surround from the drones to be able to keep her safe. But this queen on the high ground, oh, I don't know if I like that at all. I would have much preferred to see it stay in between the minerals here. Now we're going to see quite a bit of drone damage coming on in. Cham does pull the drones to try and mitigate that, getting it into the little pocket. And oh, there's the surround on one of the queens. That is a big pick-off right here. But so far, it's still not enough damage yet.
No, and we are starting to see the problem with what Cham has opted to go for, right? When your opponent goes to speedling all in, something like this, because Erik is all in here. If you opt to go speed at the normal timing, you're just, it's so much investment that you're not going to have for quite a while. So yes, Cham is doing a really good job defending this from a position that, quite honestly, is started to be rather rough. And we can see just how hard it is for him to track these Lings down. But eventually, you know, I think if this was a more maybe even matchup, if Cham had not literally gone like 17-4 against Cham all time, something like that, Cham would again be struggling a lot more, and Erik would be getting a lot of damage. But as it stands, despite this, despite getting such a delayed speed, despite committing for something that is just not going to matter for quite a while, Cham has done such a good job of holding on, and now he's got Ling speed, he's got 2 hatches, he's got himself 1 queen. It's, you know, you'd like to have 2, but at this point, Erik's going to have to back up. He's building a spine on the other side. He does have his natural done, but whatever Cham wants to do at this point is so good for him.
Well, the big deal right now is that Erik does not have any gas mining. He is going to be relying on queens and that spine to try and hold. And there's a Baneling nest nearly done here for Cham. Just morphed like 2, 3. Okay, he's going to go for 4 Banelings. He wants to be able to blow up this spine right away. In that case, he should definitely add on more and more Banelings. We do see a Ling counterattack on the other side of the map. Cham with some good drone micro and great queen positioning. Once again, mitigating his damage. I think only 1 drone falls. And here comes the attack from Cham. Erik, I really don't know how he's going to deal with this. We will be seeing Transfuse available on this one spine. But the surround on the queens is a big deal, and I think Cham's got him.
Cham absolutely does. I was going to say, I really like the queen positioning. It's walling off the ramp. It's kind of walled the queen off from itself, still within range to transfuse. But if you lose them all and you lose 8 drones because Banelings hit them, that is not anywhere close to what you're looking for. So Erik does seem dead. I was so excited about Erik moving into the Americas region, considering his recent results against Cham. But that is not